little better. Greetings, friends and viewers, subscribers. Yeah, guess what? It's me again. Oh, joy.
Oh, no!
We're gonna get into the video 2 now of the 900, KZ900 A4. So that's what we're gonna do. And like I told you in the last video, we're gonna get it running in this video. So let's go ahead and get to it. You know, the more I think about this video is gonna end up being a dumb video. There's just not a whole lot to, you know, to show. So, you know, rather than get in trouble again, I think I might run this one by the authorities, give them a call, see what they think, so I won't get in trouble again. Brought the house phone out because the signal's so bad out here. So I'm gonna give the authorities a call and see what they think about the video that I'm gonna put up here. I just don't want to get in trouble again.
Dumb video, police. Officer Syrah.
Yes, I'm sorry. Did you say Syrah? Officer Syrah?
That's right, Syrah. You got a hearing problem? First initial K. K. Syrah.
Okay, let me get this straight. So your name is K. Syrah? Syrah?
Okay, smart Alec. Like I've never heard that one before.
Oh, hey, yeah, this is Tom, Moto-Resto, Florida, YouTube channel.
Oh, I remember you. You're that one we pinched for putting a stupid muffler video up or something like that. Oh, that one was dumb.
It wasn't that dumb. Do you have a minute? Because I need to ask you a question.
Well, I'm out looking for perps to bust, putting dumb videos up on YouTube.
Perps? Okay, well, anyway, I have this motorcycle I'm working on, and it's mostly complete. Probably gonna run fine. And I'm gonna put I want to put a video up where I just essentially start it up and show that it runs. Not a whole lot more to it than that, and I'm afraid it's gonna be a dumb video. So kind of running it by you guys first because I remember what happened the last time. So as I always say, don't just repair, restore, and we'll catch on. Oh no. We warned you. Look, can't we talk about this? Oh, come on, man. No, you don't need to do this. No, come on, no. Ugh.
Okay, so wait a minute. Would you say that the video that you're talking about is going to be even dumber than that one?
Well, yeah, it's probably dumber than that one.
Well, all I can say is, sir, don't leave town.
Okay, thanks for that advice. Appreciate your time. First things first, I'm gonna clean up some of this mess. And we'll show you the battery. Oh, that's right. That parts department guy got the wrong battery. So I mean, the parts guy had to run back down to Batteries Plus and turn that battery in for a dang flood battery. I mean, he hates, well, I do too, flood batteries, but it's the only thing that'll fit at this point. I think in the future we'll go ahead and source one of those custom cool ones that are in the aftermarket that are AGM. So first things first, as you can see, I don't have the carbs in, but what we're gonna do is I'm gonna put them in off camera. Let's pull the side cover off here for the ignition. I haven't even looked in here. I'm assuming it has points. I don't know if the guy's done a conversion or not, the previous owner. Doesn't matter. Well, it does matter. If it has conversion, it makes our job a little easier, but if it has points, I wanna make sure the timing's good. And check timing. I'll show you how to do that real quick, at least how I do it. And then I'll get the carbs on off camera. By the time I can get back to probably filming this, I'll have the battery from Batteries Plus. I got to go back tomorrow and pick it up, you know, because the parts guy screwed up. And then we'll put it in here. We can crank it over and fire up with an auxiliary fuel source. So anyway, let's get to this part of it at least right now. That ain't gonna fit. I gotta show you this. I don't think this dog is all that smart. It's like 965 degrees Celsius out here. And he's like, I'll just lay out in the grass for a while. It's fine. Everything's cool. Dog is getting as goofy as that parts department guy, I swear to God. It's nice to take one of these apart with this gasket here. It hasn't turned to dust. Okay, breaker points, that's fine. Playing with points, man, that sure brings back some memories. Back in the 70s. and 80s. Wow. Yeah, been a long time. Well, they look a little used. I guess these weren't replaced by anybody. Let's see. Yeah, we may need to sand those and clean them off with some brake clean, like some emery. I was expecting this to be a little nicer. If I gotta order points for this thing, I'm not gonna be a happy camper. I mean, the parts guy is not gonna be a happy camper, that's what I mean. But we'll try it as is right now. Here's one of the spark plugs. This thing was running at some time, it wasn't running that good. These are all fouled, carbony. I'm not sure if that's oil or not, but it doesn't really matter at this point. It's not like I'm gonna do any top end work on it. 'Cause I'm not gonna be doing any top end work on it, I'll tell you right now. I'm done with top ends for a while. Okay folks, little anatomy lesson here. Points, condensers. The green is 2 and 3, the black 1 and 4. And I just looked at up here. I just looked up here to see what those wires were up here because I wasn't exactly sure myself. But you know, you trace them because they go black to black and green to green. And the green is 2 and 3. So we just have to keep that in mind and then make sure that we're dealing with the right ones. If you make a mistake, all you gotta do is flip those two, and sometimes it happens if they get hooked up backwards down here, but not a big deal. For now, we'll try it, you know, this way. I already cleaned the points with some emery and then brake clean. First thing we usually do is a gap, but I'm gonna go ahead and take the points, the entire ignition backing plate and points off right now and kind of lay it over to the side, because I want to inspect the mechanical advance. I've been burned by these before. And if the mechanical, I can't really get a purchase on it with the fingers to activate the mechanical advance, because if that thing's bound up, then it's going to screw us all up and throw us down the wrong road when we go to run it and try to diagnose a performance problem. So let's make sure that's working good first. Let's take a black marker and mark, give me a reference where it's set right now. That way I can just put it back that way and we'll try that first. Because who knows where the timing is on this, really, if you think about it. Oh, by the way, I already oiled up the wicking felt. There's a wicking felt underneath here that rubs against the cam lobe to lubricate the points as they rub. And that was driving a popcorn fart, so I just put some WD, yeah. Just put some 3-in-1 in there. Tell you what, if I only had a brain. Put it over here. Yeah, that's good. See, this would have really given us a problem if it was bound up. It feels smooth. It's not notchy, it's not gravelly. We'll leave it alone. If I put any oil in here, it's just gonna sling it around. So if it's not bound up, we're gonna leave it because there's probably just a little bit of grease in there. I don't like the cam. That's kind of crusty. Let's show you that. I really don't like the way that looks. Try to polish that off a little bit, and then we'll try it. And really, that's from where these things were sitting. You see that? Sitting there for so long. Corrosion. Might be able to polish that up. We'll try that and then put it back. Well, it's about as good as it's going to get. Now, I shot some fogging oil down in the cylinders while the plugs are out. Rotated this around a few times already with the Kickstarter. So I'm just going to do that until the point's open. I'm going to check the gap. First thing you do is the gaps always. According to what I read, it's 0.30 to 0.40 millimeters, so we'll do 0.35. Those are tight. They don't look 0.35. Yeah, that's way too tight. At least that one is. This one's better. Yeah. Okay, what did I say? The black 1 and 4 seems to be maybe slightly loose, but 2 and 3 there is real tight. So that ain't no good. We'll have to adjust that, which is pretty easy. How do you do that? How we do that for the gap is just these two guys right here for each point. And you can see that you can move this around and make the points either more open or more closed. See, there's one right there. Let me zoom up for you. Use a screwdriver, but sometimes just easy to push it like that. Get it close, snug them. This guy up here is going to be for the timing. Then you have the overall time. Once you set both of those, if the overall timing is wrong, then you can loosen the backing plate, move that around, because now the two of them are the same. But all right, that's way too big. So let me go ahead and do this, and then we'll get the thing set up where we can check the timing on each one. Won't be that hard. All right, so what I'm going to do here is, on the 1 and 4, this is where you use these little grooves and a little, there's these little pads that are proud of the plate, backing plate, so you can lever this back and forth. We're on 1 and 4, which is the left one, and all I'm set for is resistance. They're actually a beep, you know, continuity check. And so now we're going to loosen these guys up. Right now, if the points were closed, we'd be getting a tone. We can kind of simulate that by just jumpering them with a screwdriver if you listen carefully. Okay. On the fire mark for each individual point, this thing needs to be just opening. So when the points open, that field collapse in the secondary coil, secondary winding in the coil, and fires spark plug. That's what we want it to do. We're going to loosen these guys up a little bit. All we're going to do is we're going to rotate this until we hear it to beep. Then we're going to go back until it just opens. That's way up there. These things are way off. All right, so now we got continuity. And we're going to go back the other way. There it is, right there. So it just opened, and I'm on the... It's probably close to where it was. You know, there's a little bit of slop in here, you know? So the points just opened on 1 and 4. That's where I want it. So I'll just repeat the process on 2 and 3, and then our static timing is done. Now, once we get it running, we'll do a dynamic timing with the timing light, make any finite adjustments, but it should be pretty close like that. Like I said, sometimes you got to move these around because they don't travel in a perfect radius or perfect circumference, if you will, part of a circumference. They kind of slop around a little bit. So you move one until it does what you want it to do, and then move it back, and once it opens back up, then you're good. We have each point basically set at 0.35 millimeters, right in the middle of the range, and now they are just opening on the F mark for both 2 and 3 and 1 and 4. So that's it. Now we can put the cover back on and move on to other crap. All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and run it for you here in a minute. I'm going to be upfront and honest with you and say that I already ran it, but I don't want to show it to you like this because it does run okay. Well, I'll show you a really quick little clip here. Yeah, of course. And then I'll do a little bit of a longer clip, but I'm going to wait till I think tomorrow I'm going to get that silencer. I did find one online. They're not as unobtainium as I was led to believe. And they actually have a filter inside of them. So it's kind of like the previous owner described, pretty accurate. It's like a pre-filter. And that's going to change the air inflow dynamics as far as the carb mixture goes. So I don't want to run it for you any great length of time and show you how it runs in idle and so forth until we get that in there, because it, like I said, it runs okay. It's not great. It just runs okay. I'd really rather run it for you. Geez, that's tough to say. Once it's 100%, you know, like where it's supposed to be. Like I said, from that little clip, you should see that it runs pretty good. But let me go over a couple things while we're waiting, all right? The first thing is, these air inlets are a pain in the ass to put in. Now, I put the air box in first and then shoved those in. I don't know if that's the way to do it or not, because there is just not a whole lot of room in here compared to a different style inline 4 with like CV carbs and so forth. But they're in, and I had to buy the clamps for them because the clamps for the inlet tubes were not in the box of the parts that came with it. I don't like the way these clamps are set up as far as the screws. The previous owner did some debauchery on some screws. The heads are too big. They'll work as far as threads, but I need to turn those heads down. And there doesn't need to be a washer behind there. It's a real pain in the butt. We'll fix that at a later time. And so what else? Oh yeah, the carburetors. Now, these guys gave me a real headache in getting the service fuel level set up. Because as you've seen from other videos I've done, the way to do these old carbs is not with a float level, like a measured float level. It's a visual float level with a clear tube and the carbs level. That's why, one of the reasons why I built that rack for these things, or this holder. I have a video on that, I'll link in the description. And that way I could level it out and do the service fuel level. I could not get these dialed in. They were always too high every time I did it. And I'd bend the tangs further and further. Here's one of the floats that came out of it. The reason why I say came out of it is because I replaced all of them. More of that here in a second. I could bend this tang down as far as I want, which drops the, well, actually it goes this way. It drops the level of the, or the location of the float relative to the float valve in the float bowl. Ergo, because this is lower, it comes up and it'll close the float valve sooner. Therefore, you'd have a lower fuel level. No matter how much I bent that tang, it would actually get to the point where I'd bend it so far that when this thing would come up, it would actually hit the bottom, or I should say the body of the fuel, the float seat. And although it was closing the float valve, I just couldn't bend it anymore. It wouldn't work. I had to bend all I could, and it still was too high. So the proper float needles for this are these 1889 56s according to the Z1 Enterprises site. And so I put these in because I wasn't sure the ones that were in there, even though these passed a pressure test upside down, no problem with the ones that were in it. Anyway, make a long story short, I tried the 8957s, which are a little longer. I couldn't get them to work either, because what ended up happening is, here's the problem with these, is when these are installed properly, or they're installed in the carburetor, when these are in position, when the float bowl goes in, it actually will touch these a little bit. So these don't just hang necessarily against that little float drop pin, unless you adjust them that way. They'll drop down, and these are fairly shallow float bowls compared to like the BS34s, which are much deeper, ergo, and there's that word again. You have to really watch the float drop with these tangs here. I have a video on that too. And so what happens is, with a taller float valve, when the float bowls go on, it actually pushes them up a little bit, because now they're resting on the bottom of that more shallow float bowl, and it closes them off partially, and I couldn't even get fuel to flow. It was just enough closure where it would stop them. So the only thing I could surmise in this situation is that these floats, even though they look good, must be bad. Maybe they're permeated with fuel over the years and they become more dense, more heavy. So I ordered 4 brand new floats, which is what is in here rather. And I weighed the 2 of these before I put them in. These are about 1 gram heavier. Originally these came up at 9 grams, but then when I retested at 10, these are at 11. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it or not. And I put the original float needles in, which seem to be a little taller than the 8956s. I don't know what the ones that are in here. And with the new floats and the original float needles, which are in great shape, by the way, I was able to get it close. I'm still not 100% with it. I mean, it's the best I can do. But if I try to bend the tang down anymore, I run into the same problem. The float will actually hit the bottom of the float bowl, partially close it off a little bit, and then we don't have good fuel flow. All the 4 carbs fuels, all right, they fuel okay. I mean, they fill up and everything, and the levels are okay. But 2 and 4 in particular, they're a little slower to fill up based on what shows out of that clear plastic tube you've seen me use. But they do fill. So, I mean, it's the best I can do. I don't understand why it's behaving this way. I've never really run into this before with these round slides. Usually I can get them dialed in pretty quick. But for some reason, these just don't want to behave. But it is what it is right now. So that was my carb dilemma. Get you up to date on that. As far as you saw, I had the spark plugs out, and that was fine. But the thing is, the spark plug threads on all 4 of them, particularly 2 and 3 that way, are pretty cruddy. I mean, it's that typical aluminum threads from people taking spark plugs out and in for eons here since 1976. And those threads are not in good condition. In fact, 2 and 3 are difficult to even get back in by hand, but I did get them in, no cross threading, and tighten them all up. So that's something to keep in mind, because I didn't put a bore scope into these cylinders, but I looked in with a light, and you can see that intake valve when it's open right there. The valves look excellent. Top of the pistons look excellent. It really, this thing only has 5,900 miles on it, so I would expect that. But let's say that somebody did pop the top end to do something. I don't know why they didn't fix a spark plug hole, so I'm assuming that didn't happen. So, it's probably the original miles, and just over the years, the threads get compromised. So that's unfortunate, but it's going to have to stay because they're not in need of any emergency repair at this time. I'm not sure how old the oil is. The oil level is good. Off camera, I disconnected the coils and turned the ignition on and cranked it over for a while until I got my oil light to go off. It did go off, so it is generating oil pressure, so I'm happy there. The front wiring is all done in the headlight bucket. I got all that done. I did replace that 4-pin for a 6-pin plug. Here's what that looks like in a kit. So it comes with the pins and the male and the female. So all I did was I used the male out of one of these kits. I bought 3 of them. I also ended up getting these guys from Z1 Enterprises. I've been looking all over for these, and I had Googled and searched their site for these wire, holders. Kawasaki calls them bands. And turns out Z1 Enterprises sells them as a kit, and a bunch of them. I've already used some of them on here. But their nomenclature is kind of different, so that's why I wasn't able to find them. So that's what caused me to have some difficulty in scoring these things, which is kind of stupid, but I got them ultimately, and it was right up the road in Tampa, so we're good there. Got some problems with the hazard flasher as well. I have the flasher can out right now. I picked this up because I picked up the problem rather when I tried to replace the flasher can over there and leave this one the way it was. And I was having trouble getting the flasher can on the signals to work, and when I did, it would power up the 4-ways, the hazards. And I couldn't figure out why till I realized I did have some wires misconnected in the front headlight. I had the positives on the ground bullet connector female and vice versa, so I fixed that. It started to work okay, but just for shits and giggles, I happened to touch the diodes on this when I was operating the hazards, and they were getting hot. Now remember, those were 3 amperes, and that was probably a pipe dream doing that. So what I did was I hooked them up directly, without any flasher can whatsoever, so they would burn solid, and put one of those inductive amp meters on DC. And they're drawing about 7 amps. So I said, okay, well, I goofed up on that. So I made a 10 amp diode pack for this. And when I turn them on and they flash, it gets just as hot. And so I've double and triple and quadruple checked all the wiring as far as the routing and so forth, and there's nothing wrong with it. There's no shorts in the lights, no nothing. So I'm not really sure why it's doing that. But none of the lights are dim. Like, for example, if you had a light that's partially going to ground, that would explain a high current flow, especially like an inrush current or something. But I have no idea why it's doing it. So I've ordered some 20 amp diodes, and I'm going to go ahead and make a diode pack out of 20 amps and see if that works. I mean, the flasher can is supposed to get warm because of that bimetallic, you know, material inside of it that actually gets hot and then clicks over and then gets cooled off and clicks back, and that's how it flashes. But as far as the diodes getting hot, I don't understand why that's the case. We got a problem with the crankcase breather, which is right here. This thing is just stiffer than John Holmes in the 1970s. And for crying out loud, this is a 1970s bike. I guess that works, doesn't it? It goes from between that fitting on top of the breather itself up into the air box. And the problem with it is just not gonna, it's shrunk. It's not pliable at all. So I gotta find one of these. I haven't even looked yet, but we're gonna, when I show it to you running rather, we'll just have that naked right now. It's not gonna have its condom on because the bottom line is I don't have one. All right. I don't know how good she's gonna run, but in the immortal words of Tom Cruise.
And the hits just keep on coming.
Yes, they do. The hits just keep coming on this. Okay, the clips you just saw were running yesterday. I didn't want to keep you in suspense any longer. And it doesn't run that well. As you can see, I had a little trouble starting it. When I first put fuel to the carbs, number 4 overflowed right out the overflow tube. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? It didn't do that the day before that. 2 days ago, I put fuel to it and ran it really quick too. It didn't do that. So I'll get back to the carbs here in a second and what the problem is. But here's the main problem. When I went to, what we got in the mail yesterday, I should say, is we got the silencer, all right? Unboxed it, took a look at it. It's like brand new. I think it might be actually brand new. I don't know if it's a reproduction or not, but this is what it looks like, supposedly. You know, it's big, that's for sure, said the wife.
Huge, enormous, massive. It's large, humongous.
But it's also soft, which is not always good. But in this case, I guess it's okay. So this will not fit on the opening on that air box. The size is correct. I put a scale on it, and it's the right, I think it's like 73 millimeter OD, and this is 73 millimeter ID. It doesn't even come close to fitting. And you can torque this air box all you want, and it will not clear. There's something majorly wrong here. My first assumption was that the battery box was incorrect, because you can see that the battery box is right up, essentially the height of the battery as well, to the bottom of that inlet. And I'm like, I saw that before, but I was like, well, I don't know how this is, so until I get it in hand, you know, I thought maybe it's just a straight piece that didn't require that much clearance, but obviously it's not the case, right? Okay, so I'm looking at this thing, and I had to walk away from it yesterday. After I ran it and I turned the camera off, I said, screw it, I'm done. It was getting late in the day anyway. I couldn't figure this out. I was trying to find an answer as to what was going on here. And this is what I figured. I'm 99.99% sure that this is a KZ1000, 1977, 78 perhaps, KZ1000 airbox. I'm going to show you the drill down I did kind of on figuring out that it is the wrong airbox here. Then we'll talk about the carbs, then we'll close the video out. All right, right now we're looking at the parts fiche for a 77 KZ1000. This is usually where I go first. When I can't figure something out, or there's a fitment issue, or I think I have the wrong assembly or wrong parts, I generally go to the fiches first. And I did do this yesterday, but I was just too tired and too frustrated at that point to really, do some analysis on this that was, something that wasn't just more like, frustration, anger kind of thing. I was getting a little bit pissed off, in other words. Once I slept on it and took a look at it this morning, again, this is for the KZ1000, all right? And so if you look at this, there's a couple of things that match our airbox directly. First of all, the cover has the same little tab on top of it. And the inlet here where the silencer goes, and the silencer on the 1000 is way different. I mean, it's this big bulky thing, almost the same size as the airbox. But you can see that this is kind of a short bung, if you will, or short opening where that silencer goes, which is exactly the same as what we have here, and of course that little lid thing right there. The other thing you can do is kind of take an overall at it. See if I can zoom you up a little bit. There you go, that's better. And then we'll go over here to the 900. Now if you go to the 900 one, you can see if we can get the pages about the proper, yeah, they're about the same height now. So there's the 1000 and there's the 900. All right, let's get a little bit more even. 1000, 900. 1000, 900. You see how radically different these two airbox shapes are? So once I saw that, and it probably takes a different air filter, which I'm going to need to score, I went over to eBay and I found this KZ900, the 76 KZ900 airbox. All right, so this is a picture of the one I just bought this actually. So this is the one from this auction, and there's only a few pictures on this one, but you can see mainly this one right here. The inlet is completely different. It has that short section plus another part that's a little bit smaller. Apparently that goes inside your silencer, and then the clamp clamps down on that. So that's way different than the KZ1000 one, which, by the way, I found another eBay ad on that. So here's your KZ1000, and it's got that little single lip deal just like the airbox we have. The other thing that matches up is if you look right here around the back edge of the airbox, for this is KZ1000 airbox, you can see it's got this lip, all right? Now if you look at our airbox, I noticed that exact same lip. It's got this lip right here. Yeah, this has got a lip just like it. It protrudes out the back just a little bit, almost like a little wing, right? So this is most definitely KZ1000 airbox, which is why, number one, the silencer won't fit, and number two, I had such a bitch with these air inlets. Although those holes are the same size apparently, because those fit fine on this end. It just doesn't work. All right, well, it works, but it's just very tight, and of course that doesn't work. So when you add all this stuff up, again, we have a incorrect airbox, because I thought it might be an incorrect battery box, and it was just too high. But this is kind of another interesting story here. I wanted to find out from the previous owner. I went up in the truck with a trailer and met my customer up there and picked this up in my trailer and brought it back directly. And so I met him, I talked to him for a while, and I didn't have his number, I didn't even know his name, to be honest with you. And I called my customer yesterday and I said, hey, do you have the gentleman's name that you bought this from and his phone number? And he gave it to me. So I called the gentleman that my customer bought this from, and said, hey, this is Tom. I went up there and picked the bike up. He goes, oh, yeah, how you doing, blah, blah, blah. And we talked for a few moments, and I said, well, I have a question for you the battery box on that KZ1000, is that an aftermarket? He said, no, that's the one that was in the bike, and I cleaned it up and painted it. I said, so it's not an aftermarket, because there is an aftermarket one from Johnny's Vintage that looks exactly like this. It is listed for a KZ900, but maybe that was wrong, right? He goes, nope, this was the original one that was in there. And of course, apologies to Johnny's Vintage or any of his viewers or fans. He's right on his website. It's not an incorrect designation. That's definitely a KZ900 battery box, as is this. All right, so I got to talking to him, and you're gonna love this, because you know I didn't know his name. Even when I went up there and picked up the bike, my customer may have mentioned it to me, but I didn't kind of commit it to memory. But when he told me on the phone, before I called the gentleman, I said, So I said to him, hey, let me ask you a question. Based on his last name, which I'm not going to say, I said, are you related to so-and-so? And he said, yeah. He said, that was my sister-in-law. She was married to my late brother. And I said, you're not going to believe this, but she's my sister-in-law right now. And he goes, what? And I said, yeah, she's married to so-and-so now. He goes, yeah. I said, well, that is my wife's brother. And he goes, holy cow. He said, we're practically related. So I said, well, then you got to help me out even, and work harder to help me out, I guess. So we both had a little laugh about that. Isn't it a small world, though? That's pretty interesting. But so here's really the net sum on this, and we'll just close this, you know, abomination of a video out. Basically, I got to take the carbs off anyway to get the air box out. So I'm going to pull the carbs out all off camera. I'm going to drain them first, of course. Then I'm going to put them back on that VM carb apparatus I put a video up about, and get them up on the bench again and turn them over and take another shot at getting them set up better as far as the service fuel level goes. Once I change the jets and fix whatever sticky float issue I have with those new floats. I should have paid more attention to that. That was really a rookie mistake. But I think I'm going to go up one step on each jet anyway, even with the silencer in a proper air box. I just have a feeling, and I'm pretty sure I'm right. And then we'll try that. So I probably will do a third shorter video, hopefully shorter. I mean, this is just getting out of hand. Video on it running when I get it 100%. We'll get the air box in, because I got to get this in the mail first, and probably sand off some of the scratches that are on, not this one, on the air box that's coming in, and then paint it using my patented plastic paint method. I have video on that, and it's not patented, but you know, whatever. And then we'll get it in with the with a new air filter if we need to, and then of course the silencer, and I'll film it at that point, which will probably be a couple weeks. Probably a week and a half too, I bet it, at the you know, on the outside, because I got other stuff to do, and it's going to take a while to rehab that other air box. We'll stick it in, said the wife, and then we'll make sure that it fits, push it up, make sure the silencer is going to clear. If that all happens, I take it back out. We'll go ahead and refurbish it, and then once the paint dries, we'll put it back in with the carbs, which I will hopefully have tightened up where I really need them to be. And then, again, I'll fire the camera up again, and we'll show you a final on this as far as it running. Well, so I guess this really is a dumb video, like I kind of foresaw earlier in this video, that little skit I did on the dumb video police. And, you know, I was doing that more for comedy and just kind of, you know, lighten the video up a little bit, because I didn't think there was going to be a whole lot of content here. But ultimately, I wanted it to be a good ending as far as the thing running really well, and no problems in that area. But, you know, we're dealing with an ancient bike, and we're dealing with a machine that somebody else worked on before. I'm not saying that the previous owner did a bad job, but it is what it is. He never got that far because he never had the carbs in, never had it running after he did all the restoration work. So I guess he would have figured it out eventually. Yeah, so I guess we'll figure on ending this video, finally, this abomination. I hope you enjoyed it nonetheless, got a little laugh out of it. You know, it's unfortunate the way things turn out, but the next one will be better. We'll get her running really well, and then we'll show you that. And finally, finish this KZ900 series up with hopefully only 3 videos. Well, I guess that's it. As usual, thanks for watching. Don't just repair, restore. And we'll catch you on the next video.